It's great to be back doing Stranger Than Fiction episodes. This one is all about times that people got arrested for ridiculous things. Possession of the ohhhh. 23-year-old Ashley Huff from the City of Commerce was a passenger in a car, and that car got pulled over on the 2nd of July 2014. After pulling the car over, the police noticed that there was a spoon in Ashley's bag and it had some residue on it. This officer asked what the residue was, and she told him that she'd had some SpaghettiOs, so the residue was obviously just remains of the juice. But come on, police aren't all that dumb. They did a field test on the substance and then charged her with the possession of meth. As a result, Ashley was shipped off to jail. She was there for 2 weeks and then she managed to get herself out on the condition that she attended court appointments. On the 2nd of August, she missed an appointment and then landed back up in jail. She remained in jail for another 7 weeks. And then on the 18th of September, lab results came back which showed that the substance on the spoon was actually SpaghettiOs. There was no illegal substances. So after all these appointments and spending a total of 9 weeks in jail, Ashley hadn't actually done anything wrong. Soap subs. A year before Ashley was arrested, Annadelle Cruz was driving a Mercedes-Benz through Lear County in Pennsylvania. She too got pulled over, but this was for speeding 5 miles an hour over the limit. While the trooper was talking to her, he could smell cannabis, and she admitted that she'd had some cannabis earlier that day. She also had a small amount inside a bra, so she handed that over to the trooper. Then the trooper, that's now a bit suspicious, noticed 2 white packages, brick-like packages, in clear packaging. Annadelle were like, look, this is just some homemade soap, I've made it myself. But again, police aren't stupid. They knew exactly what that white brick thing was. They did a field test on it, and sure as hell, it was cocaine. Annadelle and a passenger, 30-year-old Alexander, were taken to jail on cocaine trafficking charges, as well as possession of cannabis and the speeding charge. After spending almost a month in jail, officials determined that the white bricks were indeed soap. Another one that I hadn't added to the list because I didn't want them all to be the same is there were 2 guys in New York stood outside a candy store. They had some Jolly Rogers with them, and this copper were like, look, I'm fairly sure that's meth. But these Jolly Rogers were actually wrapped up and everything. They hadn't even been opened. Now it's disputed whether a field test were done. The police said it weren't, but they said it were. Either which way, these guys got arrested for possession of Jolly Rogers. Although obviously the official reason was meth. But it weren't meth. It were candy. In its wrapper, outside a candy store. Something smells suspicious. For this one, we're off to Florida. Because it was in 2008 that a 13-year-old boy got arrested for farting. Yeah, seriously, he got took to a police station and everything. But it turns out it weren't only that they were doing. It were turning off other kids' computers in class and stuff. But still, to arrest him, is America really like that? This kid ended up being charged with disruption of school functioning and later released into the care of his mom. So next time you fart, think again. Top secret job. Back to the UK and up to Manchester, the home of a 16-year-old boy called John. John was depressed and he'd been creating online fake personas trying to get his friend to murder someone. He managed to convince his online friend Mark that he was from the British Secret Service and they needed him to do a killing. As a reward for doing this killing, he would receive a chance to meet the Prime Minister, he would be given a gun and a £500,000 in cash. This went on for 9 months and then the murder was plotted. And it actually went ahead too. The thing is, unbeknown to Mark, the person that John wanted killing was John. It happened in June 2003 and John was stabbed in the kidney and the liver. As a result, he ended up in hospital for a week. The conclusion of the case was John was banned from using the internet without strict adult supervision. That was for 3 years, and Mark was also put under strict supervision, but in a more general sense, for 2 years. 16-year-old John was apparently the first person to be charged with inciting his own murder. On the record, we're staying in the UK for this one. 50-year-old Andrew Nicklin in West East Birmingham had had enough of his neighbour, but more specifically, his neighbour's terrier dog. It was always yapping away and doing his head in. And let's face it, most of us have experienced something similar. This dispute about the dog's noise went on for 2 years. In an attempt to get his neighbour to recognise the annoyance, Andrew would bang the fences, bang the bins, play the drums really loudly, but nothing was being done about his dog yapping. So Andrew came up with a great plan. He recorded the dog's barking, and then in the early hours of the morning, he played it back really loud. A judge sentenced Andrew to perform 12 months of community service with 100 hours of unpaid work. He was also charged with a £250 fine, as well as being restricted in making any further contact with his neighbour for the next 10 years. Imagine not being able to contact your neighbour. Read all about it. In 2014, South Carolina 16-year-old Alex Stone was in high school. It was only his second day when he was charged and suspended from school for disorderly conduct. It were only his second day. It must have been an awful child, right? Well, the class had been given an assignment to write a Facebook status. Alex's first status was, "I killed my neighbour's pet dinosaur." Then his next status said something along the lines of, "I bought the gun to take care of the business." The teacher thought that his work were very inappropriate, so she contacted the police without any communication with his parents. His bag was searched, and so was his locker, and obviously they found nothing. It were all just a bit of creative writing. Alex was charged with disorderly conduct, and he's been suspended for school for several days. However, the Somerville police said it weren't his story that was the issue, it was his behaviour which was aggressive. Keep off the grass. 48-year-old John Hamilton was arrested because he refused to stop cutting the grass in his local park. John said he was simply trying to save the city some money by cutting the grass in Sandusky Central Park. And the grass, by the way, what did need cutting, it was 12 inches long. City workers saw him doing this and they insisted that he stopped. They even gave him a list of grassy areas that they were going to cut. But John kind of went, "No, it's alright." He turned down their offer, told them to go and cut them grasses, or lawns, whatever, while he finished the one that he was doing. But these party pooper police trying to spoil his good time turned up, and they wanted him to stop, so they told him to stop, and he didn't, so then they arrested him for obstruction and disorderly conduct. Now, the thing is about this, the big issue that just could not be overlooked was that the lawnmower was throwing debris all over the sidewalks and the street. In an extra kick in the teeth here, the city later confirmed or admitted that there was a shortage of city workers, especially in regards to mowing, because of budget cuts. Everything will be alright. This one has to be my favourite. In 2010, Slovakian security officials put explosives in a 49-year-old airline passenger's luggage. Now, I don't know if this were a voluntary thing, or if he just did it without him knowing. But don't worry, it weren't a setup, it were a training exercise. The entire point was when he got to the other side, they'd been detected and removed. At least, that's what they meant to do. This poor guy, who's just an electrician, landed in Dublin, Ireland, back from his Christmas holiday, and he was arrested. It turns out the Slovakian authorities had used 8 different packages, all containing different things, all of which obviously contraband. 7 of them had been successfully detected. However, the explosives in this guy's bag weren't. He made the entire trip without knowing these explosives were in his bag. Even worse than this, despite the fact that the Slovakian Ministry of Interior let the Irish authorities know, and they let the airline know, that not only were the explosives there, but they were harmless, this guy was still arrested and put into custody. Too soon. Let's face it, as a kid, if we saw Christmas presents hanging around, we had to have a peek. Well, this poor kid couldn't resist temptation, and it turned out he had a Nintendo Game Boy Advance. Yes, get in there. He was proper excited. He were over the moon. So much so, he got it out of the box and started playing with it. It was his grandmother that had bought it him. She'd wrapped it up, she'd placed it under the tree, and told him that he weren't allowed to open it. But then, when she checked under the tree a couple of days later, she found the unwrapped box that had been opened. His grandmother then told his 27-year-old mom. She confronted him, and obviously, as kids do, he was like, "I don't know, I ain't got a clue where it's gone." So his mom says, "Look, if you don't bring it back, I'm going to phone the police." Okay then, he went upstairs, got the Game Boy, brought it back. And his mom still phoned the police. She even said that he showed no remorse. Now, if you're thinking this is just a scare tactic, you're so wrong. The boy was sentenced as a juvenile for petty larceny and was released the same day. In the mom's defence, though, she had later said that the boy's behaviour was starting to get really bad. He'd started doing things like shoplifting, so this were kind of a ruse to kick him out of it, get him in trouble with the police, try and scare him, but it were genuine, and I still think it's funny. Don't doodle that. Off to New York and straight to their junior high, because that's where 12-year-old Alexa Gomez wrote, "Lex was here, 2-1-10, on a desk." In class. She also wrote, "I love my friends, Ali and Faith." And yeah, for writing those doodles, Alexa was taken away in handcuffs and everything. She was released 8 hours later. She was arrested for 8 hours. And when she was released, she was assigned 8 hours of community service, a book report and an essay on what she'd learned from the experience. Food's sake. Over in Chicago in 2009, 25 students, aged between 11 and 15-year-old, were rounded up and arrested. Oh, this has to be a serious one, surely. Well, according to the New York Times, the chaos started because an apple was tossed, a cookie turned into a torpedo, and an orange plunked someone in the head. Within minutes, dozens of middle school students had joined in the ruckus, and spattered adults were ducking for cover. Yeah, that's right. 25 11 to 15-year-olds were arrested and taken out of school and charged with reckless conduct because they had a food fight. And this actually went all the way. It was super serious. One mom that had 2 8th grade girls said her daughters had been jailed for hours. And she added, "My children have to appear in court. They were handcuffed, slammed in a wagon, had their mug shot taken and treated like real criminals." Fakebook. In Indiana, 29-year-old Angela Volkert was going through a messy divorce. She wanted to get some real damaging information on her 38-year-old husband. So in late May 2011, she created a Facebook account pretending to be a 17-year-old girl called Jessica Strudebaker. Of course, through this fake account, she befriended her estranged husband. But then she realised that he'd recognise her writing style, so she got a friend to send the messages. After becoming friends, it only took a matter of days before her husband was sending this strange girl messages. He was telling her quite a lot. He would talk about his children, his wife, his plans for the future. He also quite proudly tells her his secrets. He told her that he'd sold his business and planned to move somewhere warm with the kids. He also told her that he placed a GPS device in his wife's car. Not only that, he was going to use it to find her and kill her. But then he changed his mind, and he said it'd be far too obvious that it was him that did it, so he needed to get someone else to do it. He even tried to persuade her to do it, saying that she should find some gangbangers and he'd pay her. And then he tried to get this girl to run away with him. He'd planned it out so much. So Angela went to the FBI, and they were quick to go and arrest him. Now, I mean, if you look this case up, it's really interesting, because there's so many news articles that tell the case up to now. And it's how serious it is that this man is going to kill his wife, and she's found out by catfishing him. But there's not as many articles that tell you what happened after, because all the charges were dropped when her husband had proof that he knew it was her all the time. The only reason he'd gone along with it was to show the police and the court that she was still trying to interfere with his life. Therefore, it would benefit the divorce in his favour. Clever guy. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I've got time to do another Stranger Fiction soon. All I'm saying is, I love you. Take care of yourself and take care of those around you. Bye.